Welcome, 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 welcome to the Fabulous Life Ignite 21-day challenge to supercharge your fabulous life. We are on the magical day three, and we are just, super excited to be sharing this challenge with you because, the goal of the whole Fabulous Life, I guess, movement is to allow women to see so many aspects of their life in a holistic way. We're looking at money and mindset and creativity and wellness and beauty and transformation. And so we decided to start the first 4 days of this challenge with mindset. And we have with us two awesome NLP based. Liz, how are you?
I
Tanya,
am
how are you?
wonderful. I'm really good. Yeah.
Okay, and so we are going to dive deep or continue to dive deep in the whole area of your mindset. And
Mhm.
so, it's been going well. Liz, the whole idea has been to look at the detoxifying
Mhm.
certain mental behaviors, supporting that mental health. And so let's get going. Here's the worksheet. And that's
Yeah.
part of our free gift to you,
So,
which is a workbook.
yep, absolutely. So before we actually get started, I'd just like to, ask our listeners. I know nobody's going to be able to maybe interact, but I just wanted to find out, how is it going? I mean, are you actually doing the detox? Are you going through the
Right,
exercises? Are there any challenges that you're having? Is it just smooth sailing? I'm just curious,
right.
and please do reach out to me on
Well,
Facebook,
yeah,
or I
right. They
have
can DM you there. Where can they
yeah,
send you a message?
they can send me a message at Limitless Transformation Jamaica, and that's on Facebook. You'll find me there. And so you can send a message there, and they can also email me at nlptrainingjamaica@gmail.com. And I've actually been sending out the PDF and the replays to everyone who has registered on Eventbrite. And I'd be really happy to hear back from you, to hear your comments. And if you have any questions, happy also to respond to those as well. So on day one, we looked at self concept and self esteem as the core of your mindset. And then on day two, which was yesterday evening, we talked about your thoughts, your thinking, and your beliefs that actually drive so much of our behavior. And today we are looking at emotions, those nitty gritty things that we sometimes don't like to talk about, or they get us into trouble sometimes. Before we start, I would like to make a distinction between emotions and feelings. Sometimes we use them interchangeably. So I'd like to say that for me, emotions, and I think this is really borne out by psychologists, that emotions tend to be unconscious. They're actually automatically triggered by our thoughts, and they are chemically induced by our thinking. So we think about a particular event that we've had, something in the past. I mean, God forbid it was something really traumatic. If it was, then it might send us into a tailspin. I mean, if you think of persons who, for example, have post traumatic stress disorder, that is a very acute response to a very traumatic incident that happened in the past. And that is triggered by a chemical reaction that takes place. So a lot of our emotions are actually unconscious. And yes, through various interventions, some of that can become conscious to us. But sometimes there are emotions, swirling around in our unconscious that we're not even aware of, and it can trigger behavior that we even wonder, like, where did that come from? So our emotions are that, but our feelings now are really more conscious, that we are aware of them, and need not just be emotional. It could be a feeling of hunger, for example, or it could be a feeling of pain. So I just wanted to say that although we talk about both and we tend to use them synonymously, there is a distinction between them. So our thoughts, if our thoughts are in the right direction, when I say right, of course, I'm talking about if our thoughts are positive and uplifting and helpful to us in achieving whatever result we want in life, then it's great because that's going to impact our emotions, our attitude, and in fact, our behavior. And so that's the important link to remember. It's thoughts, and then through the filter system, yeah, we then get to our emotions. So we have certain beliefs, which of course are deep down. Yes, Denise, I know you're dying to come in there, so go.
Yes, I am. So let's take it like, okay, so we're watching Food Network,
Yeah.
and I think, oh wow, what they're cooking is really nice. I feel
Mhm.
hungry. Or
Yeah.
I'm watching Food Network and I'm thinking, wow, these people are really great cooks. I can never reach that level of culinary skills. I feel bad when I go into the kitchen. So you're making that connection.
Yes, and those two are a little bit different, right? Because one,
Okay.
you're triggering. The first one you talked about just feeling hungry, I mean, and that's a feeling that we're very conscious of. And so the image, that external, as we call it, representation of that really delicious meal, is through our eyesight. It is triggering within us this desire to eat because it looks so good, right? So your
Right.
eyes are like, you know um, you're connected to your stomach, if you might say that. So
Right.
there's that aspect, and then there is the other, which has to do with perhaps our own self-esteem, and
Mm-hmm.
or beliefs about ourselves and what we can and cannot do. And so when we see someone that is, very expert in an area that we are not, often if our self-esteem is a little shaky, then
Yeah.
it can get us off balance and we think, oh no, I'm not going to touch that. So I don't know,
Okay.
Tanya, if you have anything else to add.
No, I would definitely agree with that. One, and sometimes you'll even get feelings in your body depending on what you're thinking and what the emotion is. That will also give you some feeling as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, chronic pain that is not connected with anything specifically wrong, and people do suffer sometimes from chronic pain, often there is a very direct link to the inability to recognize at the unconscious level an emotion that is deep down, that you are not even conscious of. And it is the body's way of responding to this pain internally. It's an emotional pain, and it gets represented as a physical pain. And so we have various ways of helping an individual to connect with that aspect of themselves that is in fact giving them that physical pain, because it's like the unconscious mind banging on the door and saying, hey, wake up, you need to deal with this.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
do you mind if I give a quick example, personal
No.
example on that, Liz? So I've been struggling with my mom for the last few weeks. She's been
Mhm.
having really chronic pain in her knees. And she's like, oh, my knees hurt. I know some days I notice, like, just by the tone of her voice, I'm like, is everything
Mhm.
okay? Like, she's like, yeah. And then the other day I was speaking with her and she was complaining about her knee pain. And I said, what are you stressed about? And
Mhm.
she said, what? What are you asking me this? And it wasn't until I asked her that question, she started to think, she's like, oh, yes, I'm kind of, I've been feeling a little bit anxious with, just everything that's going on and just,
Mhm.
with, worrying about you guys, my sister, my brothers, myself. And
Mhm.
she wasn't conscious that the pain was linked to that, because it wasn't until I asked her that question that she realized that she was stressed, and that stress that she had that was basically kind of just lingering behind her mind is what is also contributing to the pain that she's been experiencing in her knee. So that day that I asked her, she was actually really stressed that day. And that's the day that she also had very excruciating pain in her knee. So that's an example of the link that Liz was just speaking about.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you. That's a great example, Tanya. And I dare say a lot of people have suffered from pain and never questioned as to whether there was a connection, an emotional connection. So it's really important for the detox, to be able to be aware of where we have these pockets of problems at an emotional level, and just to bring our conscious awareness to them, because they can really affect us, not just physically, but it affects the outcomes that we have, the relationships, the quality of the relationships, our ability to self-manage. Because often, as Denise is always talking about recently, the issues of homeschooling
Yeah.
and
Oh,
irritation, that you have when you are faced with something that you didn't have to deal with before, and you're like, I don't know how or if I even want to deal with this. And so
yeah.
it's a very negative emotion there. And so we have a lot of ways in NLP that we can help our clients to deal with negative emotions. We can't do the detox with timeline therapy here, obviously, but here are some tips that will help you to manage yourself better and to get out of this stagnation of emotions. So Tanya, you might want to start.
Sure. So the first tip that we have to help you with this is be aware of how you are feeling. So, sometimes we think, okay, if I just ignore something that I'm feeling or ignore a problem that I have, maybe it'll magically disappear. And most of the times they don't. So I'll give you an example of this. So all the time when I'm stressed about something, especially when it comes to work, for some reason, I have the feeling of feeling anxious in my stomach. But what I end up doing is I start cleaning everything. Like if I'm working at home, I start cleaning everything massively. And I didn't notice that was a habit that I had. So now that I recognize it and aware that I do that, I actually stop myself and I say, why am I stressed? What is bothering me? Why I'm feeling this way? So just being aware of the things that you may be feeling in your body, or the things that you are just sitting and just wondering, asking yourself, like, what is making me feel this way? Or what is triggering me to feel this way? Helps you to be aware of those feelings that you're having. And then come up with a different solution on how you want to manage that. So for me, it seems to be cleaning. I love to clean like crazy when I'm in that state.
Oh,
But I
listen.
know I'm there.
Yeah.
Denise can relate, right?
No, listen. I organize. I get like I find in the mornings, like school has started, homeschool has started, and I find that I have to be organized with everything, and then in order to cope.
Yeah.
Because a lot of because what in homeschooling you're in this Zoom classroom, and that Zoom you're jumping around, and so you have to be active with the kids on and then I have to try and work, and you feel like, oh my goodness. So I get it, I absolutely get it. So you trigger the clean. Organization is a sort of cleaning, but the files have to look.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's actually a good thing in a way, as long as you recognize that it is triggered by something else, and maybe you've got to deal with that as well. But it is at least beneficial, because the more organized you are, is the better prepared and the less stressed you'll feel, I
Yeah,
imagine. And the same in
yeah.
terms of even your cleaning. You get some physical activity
Yeah.
going, and
And,
it
and
gets it out of the
And
system.
I realize when I'm feeling that way, it gives me a sense of control over something.
Ah,
So that's
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
like, oh, I can control cleaning this. So it kind of
Mhm.
helps me to manage that, but it's
Yes.
also helps me now that I recognize it. Okay, so I'm feeling stressed about this. What can I do about this? So sitting down
Right.
and actually coming up with a solution and
Mhm.
sometimes just writing things down for me is very helpful because then I can organize it once I see it on paper. I can organize my next best step.
Sure. Yeah, indeed. Very good points. All right. So the next thing is related to number one, and it says developing your emotional guidance system, as I call it. So when you're feeling a sense of discomfort, take it that it is a sign from your emotional guidance system that you're out of alignment with your natural state. So, from my point of view, our natural state is actually one of joy, one of peace, one of love. And I say that from a sort of maybe you might call it a spiritual perspective, that I believe as we are really divine beings. And if we are, then we do have those natural innate qualities as part of our nature. And so when we are feeling any sense of discomfort, we are it's a signal, if you will, that somehow we have come away and parted ways with our natural tendencies to feel joy, love, and all those really positive emotions. So if we take it that our main job is actually to feel good and to keep ourselves in that space. I know some may be saying, oh, that sounds very selfish, but no, because if you are actually in that space, and I'm not speaking here about an egotistical um, approach to sort of selfish love. I'm speaking here about a deeply spiritual space of naturally feeling joy and love and light. And if you are in that space, you are going to have better results in every area of your life. You make better decisions. You will form and have better communication and relationships with the people that are most important to you. You will make better decisions. And just generally, you will feel better. So if you think of every time you are feeling that negative feeling, that you're really out of alignment with your true nature, then it says to you, hey, the best thing I can do right now is to get back, get back to where I need to be. Right, Denise? I see you
Yeah.
nodding.
Well, as I said, I think what changed for me between March, or I guess April, when you really realize that this homeschooling thing is serious, to now is I guess the I don't know, maybe I've lowered my expectations. The threat level is lower. The whatever is just, it is less triggering. I mean, I still feel flustered at some
Mhm,
point because, you really don't want your children to be left behind. So you have those kind of other emotions. But
mhm,
it has, I guess the gift of all of this has helped me to be aware, because at the end of the day, I have not gone to teacher school and I don't know what I'm doing. Hence, I shouldn't be so hard on myself. And as you said,
yeah.
I'm aware of how I feel. I feel inadequate.
Mhm,
And like the emotional guidance is when you have like three different Google classrooms and Zoom accounts that you're juggling in the day. I just have to, I know I will get flustered because it's two kids and two
mhm.
different, you know, systems, and I'll get flustered. So it's like, all right,
Yeah,
this is a sign. Go have a cup of tea.
yeah.
You know,
Time out.
I put yourself in time.
Yeah, yeah. Time out, time out. Go in the corner. and,
And
and even things, Denise, like practicing meditation,
yes,
because especially when there is so much going on externally, that
yeah,
ability to quiet yourself, it's as if you just it allows you to let your cork pop back up to the surface. And so
right.
that's really, I think, a good practice to help.
Yes. And I think the tea, like you're gonna have a cup of tea because I can tell you I have drank more tea since March and April in my life because I know what the opposite drink would be. So I said, you know what? Better I just stack the house full of tea bags than anything else. And that's
Yeah.
you know.
Yes.
And
Well,
so that is
the
kind of
British
part of the meditation to just sit and drink some tea and
the
just
British would agree with you. Everything is have a cup of tea.
yes, yes, have a cup of tea. Oh, what? This is annoying. Let me go get a cup of tea. I'll be right.
Yes, indeed. So, Tanya, I think you're gonna.
Yeah, so
Next point.
so our third tip that we would like to leave you with is creating an action plan. So we know that, we're always going to, experience at some point in life in the future, we will experience negative emotions. But what are some of the practical ways that we can approach and action when we are in those states, getting through those states? So, Denise, you just mentioned drinking tea. Liz, you talked about doing yoga. So, finding something
Meditation, yeah.
getting back to that awareness piece. So when you are in that space, being aware of it, but then what is your action to get yourself out of it as quickly as possible? So for
Yeah.
when I'm in that state, music and art is my thing. I like to put on my and I will
Yes.
for mothers that are at home, dance yourself away. Your kids can dance with you too.
Oh my gosh.
I love putting on music and just dancing, and then I pop right out of that feeling and right back
Mhm.
where I need to be.
Yeah.
Or sometimes I just want to be quiet, and I used to love to paint when I was younger, so I actually started to
Mhm.
again. So I'll just find myself in a corner and I'll just, do some doodling and then I'll paint it later. And I find it just calms me. I collect my mind. Also meditation. Meditation is also something that has been really helpful for me. I know, especially when I talk to my friends that have children, they're like, where am I going to find time to meditate? 10 minutes. Sometimes you can just find a 10-minute, meditation, or just sit in with your eyes closed first. Say to your kids, can mommy just have 10 minutes to just
I'm out.
balance? Sometimes
Yeah.
it's there, sometimes not.
Yeah.
You're going to have to find those things. You're going to have to trial and error and test the things that will work for you based on what your situation is. But there's always something that,
Mhm.
will gravitate to what you really need that will help you to pop out of that. So once you're there, having that action plan, okay, so I'm here, I need to get there. This is what I need to do.
Mhm.
And one of the things, you've been mentioning different things, so tea, yoga, meditation, and stuff. And one of the things that I would say a person should take away from tonight is I just want to go back to your original point, Liz, where you talked about the difference between your detoxing your thoughts and detoxing your feelings.
Yeah.
And so, in terms of like speaking for the mothers of children, of homeschooling age, I think when in April, I was thinking like, oh God, this is an invasion. I am not in control. And you want me to teach this? So what is your job? And I got in an argument with a teacher, and she tried to say, people were facilitated. Who you trying to use English on? What is the difference? And I'm like, everything they told me, I'm offended. How dare you use the word facilitate? I'm doing your job, and it was. And so April, and then like my second son has Down syndrome, and then I did the research. His stress now triggered a thing called early rising. Basically, wake up 2:30 in the morning, and then one morning I woke up into the parents group I was. There was 95 messages and photos of parents at their wits end because their children were doing the same thing. And then, but what you saw was some of the kids were climbing grills and all kind of. And my child was just sitting beside me, just chatting, and I'm like, so.
Yeah.
The point is that understanding that when I was thinking of this as an invasion and stress, as an invasion and a burden, it heightened my stress. And then so as I started to think about it in a different way, that this is just what
Reframing. We
Yes.
would call that reframing in
it's
NLP.
just what it is. You know what's the lovely thing about NLP? Sometimes you get emotionally raw and it may step aside, but it comes back. It comes back.
Mhm.
And it reminds you, as you say, reframe, and it reminds you to take things in a different context, to look at different perspectives. Because then I started to think, well, the teachers, they're trying to keep their job. They're not really attacking me personally,
Mhm.
and so some of those tools that you learn in
Yeah.
NLP make a difference. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, yeah, they really do. And you talked about the fact that the homeschooling and the reframing of it. It's also an opportunity, if you think about it, for really getting even closer to your children. I
Mm,
mean, we've never had people who have mothers and have young kids. They take them off to school and they go off to work, and you kind of pick them up in the evening, and there's limited connection. And so, even as stressful as it is, the bonding, I think, between children and parents, where of course there is good family life, because there's also another negative possibility there,
mhm.
where it's good and positive, it can really be something that you can look back on and you say, wow, it was a very difficult period, and there were all of these good things too that came out of it.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
as you said, it's a matter of perspective. And if we can hold on to that, then we can self manage, because a lot of what we're talking about here is about self
So,
management.
That's right. That's right. And the truth is, I do. I mean, I have learned. I love my children's company. I have two great guys. So,
Hmm.
when you're not angry with the teacher, and realize you have great kids. These are great kids. You just want the best for them. So all of this is coming from the space of, you know, am I qualified to get my children to Harvard? I am not. And so I'm stressed out.
Yeah.
You
But you
want
do
the
the best
best
you
for your
can with the
children.
resources that you have. And that's what
Right.
the NLP frame, right?
absolutely.
Absolutely. Yes. Keep us
Okay.
centered. So we have just one last tip, which is to refill your tank. And so after going through all of those three steps above, then we will suggest to you that you really monitor what you are doing, watching, and listening to.
Hmm.
Even the people that you hang out with, because often those persons may not be very uplifting, and
Mm.
they may be talking. And this is the problem that can happen with so-called support groups, because often it's about venting and about complaining about the problem, and
Yes.
sometimes there is little solution that is
Yes.
injected in all of that. And
Yes.
so, in as much as when you have people around you that are going through the same experience, it makes you feel, well, I'm not the only one. But at the same time, it can have a negative impact, because when you keep on going over the same ground and complaining, actually, what you're doing is wiring, and what do you say? You're wiring and firing those neurons together. And so every time you talk about something, you actually feel it over and over and over again, and it becomes worse. So just be very careful about your conversation. Yes, share, of course, because we want to have authentic relationships with people, but ensure that the conversation is steering towards upliftment and positivity at the end of the day. And I would just say another word about, media, whether that's social media or whether it's TV, monitor yourself, because you can tell when you're going down the rabbit hole. And you
Yes.
can say,
Yes.
no, it's not good for me. And as Tanya
Yeah.
says, switch on the music, right?
Oh, yes.
Music. That's really a very powerful way to help you move your mood and get you into
Yes.
a
Yes.
feeling place.
Yes.
So
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
there,
and that's what it's about. That's the fabulous life. Being in charge of your emotions, being in charge of your
yes,
thoughts,
indeed.
so you can enjoy your family, you can enjoy your kids, and this life is better.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Yeah, and so I mean, these are just some things that we think are helpful, and I hope you think it's also helpful to you. I mean, clearly, if you're coming for training or coaching, we have deeper techniques that we use to assist you on your transformational journey. But we hope you found those useful, and look forward to sharing the final day because it's a 4-day challenge for me.
Out of the 21, right?
21 days, yes.
Yes.
And so for Tanya and myself, we are just here until tomorrow. So we've talked about self-concept and self-esteem, thoughts, detoxing your emotions, and tomorrow we're going to focus on what are you saying to yourself.
Which is very important. So I
Yes,
just
Yeah.
want to thank everyone for watching and to give much love to the persons who watch us on the replay.
yes,
So again, thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you, Tanya, for sharing these NLP foundational tips to help us get control of what's going on up here, upstairs in the head, because that makes the difference in, everywhere. So we will see you one more day. You have 4 out of the 21, but we got a journey to go. It's going to be fun, going to be awesome. Thank you all so much. And we will have the replay up shortly.
yeah. And can I just
Bye.
remind everybody to fill out your journal
Yes,
and your challenge? Make
yes.
sure that you're actually using the techniques because that way you can help yourself.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you all. Bye.